Hello, welcome to Flower Juice. My name's John McDonald, and today I want to make a simple arrangement that would be ideal for being in the home. And the reason that I'm thinking of this is because of this plant. So I was in the supermarket and I saw these and I thought they're really strong, they're really nice. And what could we do with it? Because sometimes it's a bit boring. You buy a plant, you put it in a pot, fair enough. But actually, we could maybe make something a little bit more special with this. So what I've got is I've got this really nice low bowl or low plate, but it's got a little bit of a lip on it so it can hold a little bit of water. And what I want to do is I want to use some of the Agra Wool. So this is one I've actually used before. Agra Wool, if you haven't heard of it, it's basically like a rock wool. So you can use it instead of floral foam, because floral foam essentially is plastic or made from fossil fuels, so it's not so good for the environment. Whereas the Agra Wool, because it's basically a mineral, it can just go down to back down to elements essentially and just go straight into the compost heap. So what I'm going to do, I'm just using some of this just to pack our plant in, but I don't want to go too mad like that. The corner can come off. And this is really just to create a base for our design and to also act as a little bit of a support for our plant. Now, my understanding is that the calla lilies like a bit of water, so I'm not too worried that it might have its feet sitting in water a little bit. So we're just going to soak our base. It doesn't have to be too much. It can just be a little bit. Depends where you're going to put it. I mean, if you're going to put something like this where it's quite warm, then actually having it well watered is not a bad idea. Now, the main thing that I want to use on this is this beautiful moss. And this you'll find growing just on walls, on tile roofs. Most people think of it as an actual problem. I think it's kind of beautiful. So I'm just moulding that on, and that's quite secure actually, that's quite good. And this is just going to help us hide the lip of our pot, which is great. So straight away we've got an interesting base with the plant as our main point. Now what I want to do is I've got some nice twigs, and we're just going to use these twigs to create a bit of an element that's going to be kind of interesting, that's going round. So I want this to be held by the wool. We could actually tie this onto the pot if we wanted, but I think that's just going to look a little bit clumsy. So just doing this really with the base that we've got, I think is better. And actually these little split ends are quite cute. They're not in any way a problem. So what I'm doing, I'm just making a hole with my finger and working that in. So we're adding some lines and we're adding some interest to our design. I can even put in that little cut off bit there. Now, I've also got some buds. So this was really the top ends of our sticks. And I thought this would be quite nice in here. This is actually a lilac, and I needed to trim some of it to make it a little bit more controlled. So it seems a real shame to waste it. Now, let's have a look. So really with this, we can just very easily add these in. Now, as long as we have water in this base, these buds will be fine. And I think this makes it quite interesting. So I'm just wanting this to be quite random, not particularly formal. You can even take these bits, bring them in. So bits like this, quite interesting. And actually the ones that have like that's the way it should be, but you can put it this way if you think it's going to work better. And what we're really doing is just creating a bit of a caged effect on our container, on our plant. So adding interest, but really with material that would have gone in the bin, which is a real shame. So I'm just going to add a little bit more water into here. And I have to say, I really love the moss. I think that whole thing gives a very natural look, which is quite nice. So at this point we've got, it's a bit interesting, but what we need to do now is add some details. So I've got some lovely little muscari. And I'm going to put these in, but I really want to make sure that they go down to the base, to the actual bottom of the plate. And also I've got a little bit of lavender. And what we're really doing with adding these elements is just bringing in a touch of detail, a touch of interest. Now, if you were going to use a different base, what you can do is you could put little tubes. That would work quite well. You could tube little areas for putting your flowers if you're not convinced that you're going to get enough water from your actual base. But I think this will be good. And to be honest, if you've got a cooler room in a house, that's a good place to put some types of arrangements. So depending on the content, so anything with spring flowers are going to be much happier in a cooler environment. And they're going to last a bit longer. But what I would say is don't put them somewhere that you just never see them. If it's a choice of a cool room but you're not going to see it, then that seems a shame. My mum used to do that years ago. Put things through in the good room and no one ever saw them. They were too good to have and she didn't want them to die too quickly. And no one got the enjoyment of them at all. So I think what you want is you want that ability to bring plants into your house and into your daily life, but also you want to enjoy them. You don't want to hide them away. So I'm really putting these in a very random sort of a way. There's no formality to that. So like they're just really growing like little clumps. And I think what we'll do, we'll bring a little bit of that lavender into the centre. So an arrangement like this would be a really good base for doing maybe like a spring arrangement or like an Easter arrangement. So you could add decorative pieces to make it into something more if you like. Personally, I like the fact that it's really quite natural, that it doesn't have too much going on, and it creates like a little kind of woodland garden in itself. So personally, I would rather just leave it with less, because I think that looks better. But if you're going to make your own version, then feel free to adapt it and change it and make it into something that you really like. So there we go. We've got a simple houseplant transformed into what is a very modern but naturalistic kind of European style design. So I hope you've enjoyed today's design. If you have, and you haven't already, click here to subscribe. We have a new video every week, and we really look forward to seeing you for future designs.